It does look pretty wild here, but also beautiful. So if I go closer there, and you can see how tall that is. So it goes, let me show you that from here. It goes all the way over my knees. It's almost waist high. While some, like these, the blue ones, they are definitely as tall as my waist and above. So I am walking here in, waist high grass and other things. What I find especially beautiful is this. In Spanish they're called amapola, and they are pretty nice. And of course there is a lot of other things there. So these ones here, this is not really what I wish is some sort of a thistle. They call this cardo in Spanish, and it is part of it, and they can quickly overwhelm it. It is here where we lost vetiver to these plants, so to these thistles. And you see, this here is also in bloom. The grey water pond continues to be filled. The vetiver is getting greener and greener and also growing. And like I said, these other things, they can overwhelm the vetiver if it's not mature enough. So can be a problem. That is what happened here. There is no time to tend to this, but when I get the Dewald weed whacker back, well, the replacement, it's on its way. It should be delivered later this week. Then I will go in here and do on my own a little bit of maintenance with a machine that I can easily handle without turning myself into a weed whacker worker with all the proper gear and all that, because that gas powered thing I really don't like. It is just so annoying, and I want to do a quick job, and it is a lot easier with this electric tool. It is equally as powerful, and you can do damage with that, including to yourself, but I think I can handle that and be careful. So let me show you the path that I just walked through. So I left a mark so that you can appreciate that. I don't want to do too much here, so all this should go to seed, and then we will see. So it's just that I want to do some maintenance in areas where I know that I need to create an advantage for certain plants, and everything else is more than welcome to grow as nature intended. But over there I want to knock this down, because this is helpful as biomass, but it should not dominate the area. Of course there's nothing planted. That is where a little while ago we had the chili, and I hope we can do chili and similar things in an orderly fashion in the near future. And that could also then be a specialty product. And we can do this as a volunteer project, as a planned one, now that the cortejo over there is getting more and more comfy. Alexander is doing a great job because he's basically living there at the moment. And we are doing a few things to improve this, so that the next group of volunteers can then have it very comfy, and we can make this a regular thing. The chicken don't like to be out. I I'm about to provide them some additional feed, but maybe I should not, because feed is the best fence, and if you want to lure them out, then not providing feed on the inside is also a trick. There would be plenty of food for them, but of course they need to figure that out. They do have water inside, but I would love to have them outside and take advantage of all the green stuff. It might be that those Araucana are way more careful than the laying hens that we had before, which is a good thing. So for free-range chicken, this might be a much better breed. And that's at the very end the idea. So the chicken coop is not where they should live. They should be outside for as much as possible. I have been wondering why these Pilovnia trees here in the farmyard looking a little bit ruffled and feathered. And I think it's a temperature swing. It started pretty warm and suddenly it's cold. I don't think that is moisture related. And you see, if you go down here at the trunk, for example there, this is not alive, while this one here definitely is. So it looks like they started too early, because early April was warm and then it got cold, and right now there's a cold wind blowing, so all this died off again. But then it is making new leaves. That's not a big problem, while others that are in more protected areas do not show this. It tends a little bit on the tree apparently. So this is something that can happen. Every single piece that is hanging here from the ceiling is accounted for individually. Nothing can escape. Each leg has a label with an identification number. Now Angel is taking one out to have a closer look. And here it is. You can see how yellow the fat is, and you can also notice how it has shrunk. Now the weight is significantly less than when it was fresh. When you start cutting the ham, it is important to keep this fat in order to close the cut surface again, so that it won't dry out. To get your own leg of ham, you can head over to our web shop and order some. There are two options for you to buy the ham. We offer envelopes with 100 grams of hand-sliced pieces of ham. And there is the full leg. In the case of a front leg, it's about 4 to 6 kilo each. Families in Spain keep the leg in the kitchen, and everybody cuts off a slice whenever they are hungry. Let's have another look at the planting site here, and the wobblers, to see what progress we are making. It appears that we are planting now there at the fence on the other side, so basically guys are starting the second sector, and that's a good sign. And even on this wide lens you might notice that some of the plants are making leaves and they are erect, which means they have definitely also made roots, thanks to the irrigation and also to the rainfall that we had. So this is what Alexander made after the tree had fallen. He chopped it up, and I'm so happy to report that we did this with an electric chainsaw. Dewald has a wide variety of power tools, including a chainsaw, and that chainsaw was able to cut through all of that. Of course, it consumes batteries, but that's perfectly normal, and there's no problem. And for jobs like this, that you do not do every day, this is more than enough. So, recommendation: this tool really works well. And of course, the chain is new and sharp, and everything is at an optimum state, so you can do this. And now we leave this here the way it looks right now, so that insects and all kinds of other animals can make their home here in the middle of the Miyawaki forest that we are planting. And speaking about planting, the guys are planting here in that corner as well. And you see there are also 2 more wobblers here for the sector. And it's not far away that we can declare this done. And we are also at the point of making another sector for the irrigation, so that we can irrigate one part first and then the other, or maybe one sector needs a little bit more than the other, so that we have some room to play. It happens to be that the solenoid valve controller has 2 ports, and we can only use it here because we can't run a very thin cable over 500 meters. So we have the luxury of a 2-port controller for this side here. And so we make use of it. But we just spoke about that. We will also learn something now that we have the opportunity. So right now we have 200 meters and some 20 wobblers on us. So we will then start the next sector and put another 20 there. And then for an experiment we will combine the 2 and see how that will then work. Just so that we learn in reality, not in theory, how many wobblers we can put on the same line. That will help us in the future when we have longer runs. So we have a calculation that was created by the supplier of this. They have a tool from Senegal to figure this out, and the intention is to get us some proof in reality. And both things, I think, are fine, and it's a smart move to do a test instead of installing something that should work in theory. Because then becomes the ay and head scratching, and suddenly it is hot and we cannot irrigate enough, and then the plants will die. So instead of going for that, we play it safe, but still we do an experiment. All those holes there, they're also great. It's like an insect hotel, but a natural one. And this is kind of in the middle of the Miyawaki forest. So this is just great. Condensation can be a real issue. So this is the attempt to use spray foam insulation that is being sold here in small bottles. It's the first time that I work with that, and I figured out after cleaning it and drying it most of all, and when the metal is not too hot, so it's early in the morning, I can go into the lower parts of this roofing here and apply the spray foam, and it expands. I learned to be very, very gentle so that it stick there. This is the early attempt, and of course that was a little bit naive, but by now I learned this, and you can see how wet it is. If you look closely, you can see the water shimmering there. So the plan here is to insulate this and then apply to that some wood. Of course it would be here, and then have the planks go there, and then close it in with some tongue and groove that will be then painted with a water resistant paint, and that should give us a nice ceiling. Of course it's not perfect in here because it's also not very high, the whole thing, and the same gets applied to the wall as well, and then this turns into an actual bathroom. We've been trying to make a little experiment here, and we added more wobblers, and now the pressure for all of the wobblers is less, and that means that they throw a lot less far and also make a little puddles there. So you can see that the circle is a lot smaller than it used to be, and that means we have to definitely stop with that segment and add the wobblers to the next segment. But that's okay, I mentioned that we have plans to have 2 sectors in here and control them via a solenoid valve for each sector, so that we can irrigate first one and then the other. Now Angel over there at the far end switched the shut-off valve, so that now the second sector that they installed today is now receiving all the pressure, and you can see now that looks quite different. So we try to have an even amount of wobblers for each sector, and then the 2 solenoid valves will turn them on and off. It's getting exciting. So as we have been irrigating with the water from that pond there ahead, I think it would be a good idea to have a look. Of course here that sediment trap in the seasonal creek, where you also see the frogs developing. I hope you can see that here on that camera. They're pretty big now. That is full, but that does not mean that the pond further ahead also is. And right now this is the only water source, as we have not yet activated the pump down at the outflow of the water reservoir that is supposed to fill it up all the time. So let's have a look how this pond looks like. So it is full. Of course now you see this only on that very wide angle lens, but you can see it here. That is definitely full. It is not overflowing, but it is definitely full. The pump is running at the moment. And this is okay, so there is no immediate problem. Just the contrary, were very good. But you need to keep an eye on things, and we will see how long all this water will last us. But you can see there at the distance, you might be able to see that rope there. This has been a little bit deeper into the water. So we have lowered this a little bit. But we are in pretty good shape, so I don't see any immediate problem here. So this looks very good. So it appears that we can irrigate the way we are. What I can also report, and we have just been talking about this, but in a different language, we probably end up with the need for a little bit more pressure. We have it down, so we have a pressure reduction valve that reduces this to 4 bar, but that's at the pressure reduction valve up here. And of course further down we lose some of the pressure, and we need to replace the pipe that goes down so that it's pipe for a lot higher pressure. We will walk the pipe and have a look what pipe we have there, and then use a high pressure one. So we can pump this up all the way, I think, to 9 bar. That's what the pump is able to produce, and then we should be good. And the plan is to have a string of 25 wobblers and then another string, so 50 in total. It is less than originally planned because we have some areas where we will not plant and therefore also not irrigate. That's why the oak trees are standing, and in their shade there is no point in planting the new things. Nature should take care of this.